Well, Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Well, what do you do when you share such
Welcome
love?
to
Well,
the
you start
103rd
a
episode
club,
of
you
the
start a
ABC
club, an
Pod, the
adult
Adult
book
Book Club
club, an
with Taja
adult
and
book
Russell. I am Russell.
club.
She is
In the
Taja.
Hello, hello.
Hello and welcome
podcast.
back, everybody, to the podcast where we drink and we read things. And on this episode, we read Mosquitoland by David Arnold. But before we get to that, Taja, it's been 2 weeks. What is going on in your world?
Well, I got my new tattoo finished, which is very exciting. I think it looks really good.
Does look very
Um,
nice.
and it was a long sit, that second session, 3 hours after I'd spent 7 hours sitting in the car driving back from Jersey. So I was like very twitchy, and she kept being like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Can I just stand up?" Um, And yeah, I'm pleased with that. Got a new couch getting delivered today, and it's finally raining because we have a drought here. Um, the horrors still are persisting in the world, and that sucks. But I had a birthday,
You did. The big 40.
big 4-0, and we went to New Jersey, I guess, to celebrate. We went to a Giants game, and they were atrocious.
Hmm.
And that was fun, I guess. The tailgating part was fun. We met up with one of Barry's coworkers for a hot second in the parking lot. She was like kitted out in all her Chiefs gear.
Wow.
She was like, "Yeah, I got heckled on the way here." But they walked away victorious, so who's laughing now? Um, and then we went to the Liberty Science Center in Jersey, which was fun, and it's definitely made for kids, so it was weird walking around there being like childless adults. And then we went to Medieval Times for my birthday,
I
dinner and tournament.
I saw. I was very jealous. How have you, first of all, have you ever been?
I have been one
Okay.
other time with Barry. I was talking to my dad. I was like, "Have I been when I was a kid?" Because they have like locations all over. And he was like, "I'm pretty sure we've never taken you." And I was like, "All
No.
right, that's cool." So only as an adult. It is amazing. It was so much fun. And yeah, it's just a great time. It's like being a little Ren fair. Um, and it's just cool because like, I mean, the dinner is okay. I mean, it's not amazing,
Yeah.
but the horses and the actors and they've got all sorts of just cool entertainment. There's a guy with a falcon and he sent the falcon out like all over the crowd, and yeah, it's just fun to make believe for a little while. Um, yeah, and then I mean being in the car for that long sucked. But yeah, overall it was a really good time.
I forgot about the Giants game. So I like was checking up on everybody as I do, and I saw you guys were down in New Jersey. And I was like, they
What the
went.
heck?
I'm like, are they going to the city at least for her birthday? And then I saw you were staying in New Jersey. I was like, what is going on? And then you posted to your story about being at medieval times, and I was like, did they? I mean, that's cool, but did they drive all the way to New Jersey for medieval times? And then you were like, "Yeah, we're at the game," or I think Barry might have texted or something, or maybe again your Instagram. So I
I
was like,
think there was
"Oh,
something with the fantasy football, and I did put something on my Instagram,
it's
but
like now I
I
remember."
it's funny, like so his coworker is a Chiefs fan, obviously. And she was like, "They're playing the Giants, like we should go." Like they talked about it. We didn't know like when it was gonna be. So as soon as the schedule was released, we were like, "Okay, we're just gonna go buy tickets." Never at any point did I consider what time of day the game was at.
Mhm.
Didn't have any clue. Bought the tickets. We were like making all these plans. And then like the week before, I was like, "This game is an 8:20 game."
Yeah,
Like we are not late night owls. Like that's not our thing. So yeah, that was a bit rough. It was a very late night. Um, but it it all worked out. It was fine. Except it was a shitty game and they were terrible.
nice. We for my 2 weeks, the first weekend, we went to a New England Revolution game, which is the soccer team here for the MLS,
Ooh.
and it was because it was a Christmas gift to my father-in-law from the three kids,
Oh, nice.
and I was told that everyone had to go except for the two youngest, who are like 4 and 5.
Sure.
So We ended up having to pick up her dad, which isn't on the way, which is fine because he doesn't drive at night. And of course, it
Oh.
was a 7:30 on a Saturday, which is too late for me, especially
Yeah.
for a New England Revolution game. Um, we get her dad, and on the way to her sister's house, because we were carpooling, I find out that none of the other brother-in-laws are coming, or my brother-in-laws, whatever. So it's me, the three sisters, four kids, and her dad.
Who gave you this bum steer?
Amanda, of course.
Amanda.
And they're like, well, who's going to watch the youngest? Because they each have one. So the dad stay home to watch the kids. And I was like, your mom, like grandma, she can
Yeah,
watch
send
them,
them
right?
both to grandma.
No, apparently not. So it started off on a rocky foot. The game was terrible. It was like
Oh,
between them and Toronto, which they're like 13 and 15th in the league out of 16. And both teams were counterattack teams, which meant nobody knew what to do when nobody attacked. So it's
oh
just like right
no.
in the middle of the field.
Oh,
Um,
boring.
but people enjoyed it, so that was good. We did end up seeing two goals eventually, so that did make it like the last 10 minutes of the 100 minutes probably of game time, once you have added time and all that stuff, was fun. It was the other 90 minutes that were rough. So, yeah, that was the first weekend. And then last weekend, the band played its first show since
Yeah.
April. I think it was, where we did Porch Fest in Portsmouth. So we had practiced again last week. We were feeling pretty good about it. We ended up uh, getting there early and we set up and we were playing with two other bands and we were supposed to go first, but then one of the other bands had a guy who had to leave before it was over. So they went first, so we went second, which was fine with us. We don't really
Yeah.
care. And it ended up being quite a crowd. Like we probably
Nice.
brought 10-ish people, 10 to 12, and there's probably 75 people there when we played.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
a lot of people who didn't know who we were hopefully know who we are. We have
Yeah.
merch now, so we sold a couple shirts, a couple stickers, so that was
That's
exciting.
awesome.
As the band becomes a little bit more of a real thing. And then yeah, we've got another show tomorrow as we're recording this in the press room at Portsmouth. And by the time you hear this, because I'm probably not going to edit it today,
Yeah.
that show will be over. So hopefully but again, that's for the charity foundation with the Portsmouth firefighters,
Firefighters, that's
which we're happy to be working with, obviously, because it's Sully. He's also like
right.
the vice president of the charity organization. So
Hey, hey.
yeah, it's important for him that this goes well.
Yeah.
But also, it's not like anybody wants that job. So it's not like it's like my job depends on it. No, he just wants to raise money for a couple of their guys that are going through some stuff. So we're excited to do that. So if you are in the Portsmouth area and can time travel, meet us there tomorrow, 12 to 4. Yeah. And so after the show last week, after Porch Fest, I ended up staying up there. And then Sunday night, we were going to see a band called Lucero. We had seen before, and they're kind of like Americana, country rock, kind of older. They were doing the like all those bands are doing now. It's like the 15th anniversary or 20th anniversary of this one album, so they're gonna play the whole album. So it was
Okay.
my favorite album by them, so I was excited.
Nice.
But we also spent the day drinking in Portsmouth, and I made bets with Roy because he's a Bears fan and I'm a Cowboys fan, and you can guess how that went because the Cowboys got smoked. And by the time I got to the show, I was pretty well liquored up. I did well throughout the show, I think. It was definitely, what did Alden say? We were both a little bit, shit, I forget the word he used, but, you know, haggard, maybe is a way to put it. Me and Sully. Alden just came out for the show, because he's got a kid and is smart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a rough landing Sunday night, Monday morning. Few rough days this week to recover and do it all again tomorrow. So that was my 2 weeks. I will say Sully has been killing it on the Instagram for the band, which just makes me feel so bad about what I do for ours. But if you want to follow us there or on Twitter, we're at Adult Book Club 21. That is Adult Book Club and then the number 21, all one word. You can totally see how bad I am at doing anything.
You posted just now,
That's
so
coffee and a podcast, folks.
yeah.
We're getting this one out of the way early. Oh, and we started a YouTube. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
news too. Yeah, we're also at Adult Book Club 21.
Joe, that's for you.
Yeah, Joe, you better be watching this as I assume I put this one out there too. But you better be watching that one we put out there so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's limited editing on the video because I'm not going back through and
Awesome.
cutting all that out. But
I don't think we do anything embarrassing.
no, it's not that. It's more just like Bryce had her little I have to go out thing last time. So I like made sure to cut anything that's like long, a few minutes.
Long-winded. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the podcast itself, in the audio version, you're welcome. There's a lot of and just empty space that sometimes happens as we stare at each other pointing.
Hmm.
So yeah, anyway, find us on YouTube. Give us a follow there too. Like and subscribe or whatever
Or
the
whatever
kids.
YouTubers say.
We're influencers, man. Uh,
We're very bad at it.
yeah, we're 40-year-old influencers. And on that note, we move back to the book, which once again is Mosquitoland by David Arnold. Mosquitoland is the debut novel for Arnold and was originally published in 2015. In a past life, Arnold recorded music for a living and had created a companion album to this novel titled Say It Out Loud. It had 9 songs on it, it had 9 songs on it that were inspired by Mosquitoland and his second novel that he was writing at the time. I will say, like, he's on Spotify as Neon Imposters. That album's not part of it. So
Oh,
I'm not sure where you can find it because when he wrote the book, he's like, go to my website and click music and you can find it. And I didn't
yeah.
see it there either.
Oh, weird.
But he has like some lyrics in the back of the book for and kind of tells you how it has to do with Mosquitoland. But yeah,
Hmm.
interesting that that's maybe he's a little embarrassed. Who knows? I don't know the man. But this is Arnold's second time on the podcast as we covered his novel Electric Kingdom. Shout out cousin Dave in episode 83. So on that note, Tasha, if you want to read us the jacket, we will get started.
All right. Mim Malone is not okay. Her parents split up, her dad remarried and dragged her to Mississippi, and she finds out her mom is sick back in Ohio. So Mim picks up her life and catches a Greyhound bus to Cleveland. The journey takes some unexpected and hilarious turns as Mim encounters a couple of very eccentric traveling companions from all over the map. And what begins as a simple road trip turns out to be exactly what Mim needs to confront her own fears and define for herself what it truly means to be okay. That's very succinct.
Yes, very well done. I mean, the book itself is very
Yeah.
succinct. I think we noticed that with Electric Kingdom too, that he doesn't mince
Yeah.
words. Not that he wrote the jacket, maybe he did. Still wonder how that works. Maybe
Yeah, I
someday
do
we'll figure it out.
too.
Probably not. So, as noted there, our main character is Mary Iris Malone, well known as Mim to all but her mother. So, Ariane, what you thought of her as we got to know her?
I thought she was a good protagonist, like somehow relatable, even though she's pretty different and like puts herself out there is very different. I guess you could say neurodivergent would be a good term. She's super endearing though, like the way that she um sort of processes the world and the way she thinks about herself. She seems very, what, she's only 16
Yeah,
and she seems very learned, like she likes to read books and she's um weirdly street smart but also naive in
yeah,
an endearing way. Um Yeah, I guess I'd say I appreciate that she's another, we get those young protagonists that are so perfect and great at everything. And like she's got flaws and she owns her flaws. But you also are kind of like walking alongside her as she's figuring shit out. And that's really satisfying.
yeah. I think he does a great job bringing us in from the first sentence. And there's so much thought that goes into the first sentence of a book, and to have it just as its own chapter. My name is Mary Iris Malone, and I am not okay. That is like, okay, I'm in. Like,
Yeah, tell me
interesting.
more.
Yeah, go on. So I thought he showed how straightforward she was going to be with us right off the bat. Where,
Hmm.
yeah, sure, as she's going along in her tale, she's leaving some of the mystery open because obviously that's how books work. But as far as what's going on in the moment, how she feels about the things she's bringing up, she's very honest about it. And you can just feel the emotion, at least I thought, coming off the page as, again, she was being very vulnerable with the letters she's writing, and then
Hmm.
also as she's just kind of her internal monologue as she's explaining what's going on around her. So I was immediately rooting for her. I, like you, was impressed by her street smarts with very big dash of naivete. Like she wasn't dumb. She just
Yeah.
did some dumb things every once
Yeah.
in a while.
Which, like, same girl.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, if you're 16 years old, how well are you gonna do? Like her resourcefulness, the way she took her stepmother's money, but knowing she would need something to get to Ohio, like there was it happened all very quickly, but you could see that like there was a little bit of a plan,
Yeah.
and then the rest of it was I'm gonna wing it. Like I know I need to get a
Yeah.
bus, I know I need money, we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And I thought she did really well with that. So um, yeah, I was immediately drawn to her. And as you said, like a little bit maybe quirky or something like that, where it just adds to the intrigue of wanting to know more about her, wanting to
Oh.
know what she's gone through and how she got to be this 16-year-old running away from home.
I gotta applaud her gravitas of being like, I'm just gonna go. I don't think at 16 I would have the balls to do
Yeah.
that. I don't.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of us like say we are, it's like, oh,
Oh,
I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, I'll run away. And then the
yeah.
moment comes and you're like, I was kidding. Can I have dinner?
Right? Like I think she was, like you said, the little bit of planning she did was smart in that she knew that she'd need resources like that. And her plan of like traveling by bus, like all of that makes sense, but to just actually execute it was impressive.
Oh, and then immediately she realizes that there's so much she didn't think about. Whereas
Yeah.
she's like, I only packed one pair of pants.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as her pants get ripped up and bloodied, she's like, shit, that was a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think she definitely shows her age at certain parts,
Yeah,
which it just makes her all the more endearing, I think, and it makes it really believable that she's working through all of that.
yeah, exactly. And as you put it, again, what was it? Bite the Dawn or whatever. The one about the seamstress.
Spin the Dawn.
In the Dawn, the 14-year-old that could do everything magical and had magic shears and could fight everything. Like, yes, this isn't a fantasy novel, so you can't be there. So again, her resourcefulness, but then lack of actual planning everything out. Like she wasn't perfect, and that made it all the more realistic, where you could be like, I can see why you thought of this, and I can also understand how you never thought of this.
Yeah, like she's got the logic of knowing a plan or like having an idea of how to execute something, but then lack of experience in actually doing any of those things really shows. And I think that was a very realistic representation of a 16-year-old.
Yep. I mean, maybe it's funny because my two oldest nephews are older than that now, and I look at them and I'm like, nope, they couldn't do that.
Couldn't do it.
Not even
I mean,
close.
not for nothing. It's probably also a little bit of a girl thing.
Hey, true. You guys
Just
are
saying.
always smarter and they mature faster.
Yep.
And guys are dummies. We still are. So, talking about how the book was written, many chapters begin with a letter that Mim is writing to Isabel. I was wondering what you thought of how Arnold laid this novel out.
I actually really liked it. I think it was a kind of interesting like side view or like peek behind the curtain because in the sort of narrative, um, just the day by day portion of the narrative, I'll call it plot A, you're getting a certain amount of Mim's internal monologue or whatever, things that are happening to her in the moment. But then with the letters, you get a lot more of the backstory. I mean, in the present day stuff or like the actual narrative, you do get her, she flashes back, she has these memories that she shares. But the letters are an interesting way to show more about who she is. It's basically like journaling to yourself, but with a directed, at a person. And I liked that. It gave like I don't know, it gave me more, not less. It wasn't pulling me out of the story, it was adding to it.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of the key points there. The fact that it was a letter that she was writing to somebody specific really works for if you're writing it to the reader, right? Because then you
Yeah.
just become that person. So, and just like this person, we need to learn more about her backstory and all that. So as she's going through that and explaining different life experiences that brought her here, different memories of her mother, like this is the only way we really see either her
Right.
parents
Right.
is through these moments. And you can see the kind of rose-colored glasses that she sees her mother through. And yes, her
Mhm.
dad is definitely the dirtball in this story, but we get such this glowing image of her mother that may or may not be true, and that probably happens to a lot of children of divorce. You choose one side or the other. Especially in this scenario, I would definitely choose her mother.
I mean, it's also easy to pick a bad guy in that
Yes.
scenario too.
And her dad's the one that picked her up and moved her 900 and something
Exactly.
miles away
Exactly.
with new mom,
Yeah.
Kathy. So, yeah. But yeah, I thought that was really good to give us that kind of backstory, give us more of her mental side. And like you said, it didn't pull you out. If anything, it was giving you more. And I thought it was a good way of doing it because it didn't, like with some of those stories, if that was a separate chapter, I think that would be more annoying. But I liked how he brought us back, where it's like, Mim closes the journal and like looks up at whatever's happening
Yeah,
on the
it's
bus
very
at that
much
time.
part of the story.
Yeah, like we're sitting over her while she's writing it, and then
Yeah,
like our story. So
totally.
that the way he did all of that, I thought was a great way of doing it without bogging us down.
Yeah.
I will say, as she's listing the reasons for why she's doing what she's doing, I immediately like forgot all of those. When she was like, reason number six, I'm like, were there five before
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, I wasn't, and I think at one point in the journaling, she's like, we've gotten away from reasons. And I was like, I already forgot that we were in reasons.
Yeah.
So whatever.
And I think part of that too is when that first it comes up, it's so early in the story, and you're like, again, for me, just the way I read, I'm just trying to get into the story. So I was kind
Yeah.
of just like, that will
I'm
come
not
up if it's necessary.
exactly. I wasn't necessarily clocking that that would be like an important thing or anything. I did
Yeah.
appreciate though in like some of the later entries, she's like saying how she went back and reread
Yeah.
the earlier ones, which like especially because of what it is. It's not just a journal. I mean, I haven't journaled since I was a wee babe. But I don't necessarily think that it's typical to go back and reread while you're doing it. But if
Yeah.
it's a letter to somebody, there's a certain amount of like editing. I liked it. It was like she's doing a lot of self-reflecting IRL
Yeah.
and then to do it in what she's sharing, I thought was good.
And I liked how in other stories we've talked about this, whether it's with the writing, like it reminds me of We Contain Multitudes,
Mm,
or just with your setup where we've had those stories where it's like ABC perspective, ABC, ABC, we got to
yeah.
stick with it. I was glad that he wasn't afraid to pull out of the journaling thing, where there
Yeah.
were quite a few chapters that didn't start with that. And it wasn't like he was trying to fit to that mold that he had started. It was just in there for, obviously, it was an important part of the story, and we learned more about that post spoilers, but it just, he used it when he needed to, and he didn't use it when he didn't need to. And that is a hallmark of a good writer because just break out of that whatever first notion you have.
Pattern. Yeah.
Pattern.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
was
a better
very
word for
smart
all the
about
words I said.
it.
I also liked how she would sign off on each entry as something to do with the story she had just told.
Yeah.
And again, just making you like when she talks about how she lied about how much Native American blood she had in her, because don't all kids do that? It's like, I totally did that as a kid. I didn't get not nominated for an award or something like she did and have it all crashing down, but
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was great. Again, just makes her relatable.
totally.
I wonder, yeah, yeah, all around, just really cool way of doing it and something different that kept you going. And again, them being like 3, 4 pages. I think the longest one comes at the end, which is fine. You're kind of wrapping it up, but we didn't spend a tremendous time in that journal, which was
Yeah.
pretty great.
Yeah.
So, to start our trip, Mim becomes friends with an old woman named Arlene on the bus, and then later with a boy in Independence, Kentucky named Walt. These are kind of our first two supporting characters that we meet. So, I was wondering what you thought of them post pre spoilers, obviously. And Arlene, we can talk about completely. Walt, I think, kind of until they start moving, but whatever. Go wherever you want with it.
So Arlene is a gem. I think their time together was brief, like passengers on a bus
Yeah.
going to different places. But I think it was a really solid connection, and I appreciated that, when they first meet, Mim kind of has the gut, like, I don't want to talk to strangers, but then is pretty immediately swayed by Arlene just being a genuinely nice person. And they clicked really well and they had I don't know, I think the intergenerational like that, like the a young person and an old person. It's sort of like kindred spirits
Yeah.
sort of vibe. I had written down, remember from Marvelous Light, there was like one doohickey I'd put in that was like, and I had a rush of swell feeling, and it felt like that, where it was like there's just somebody that um it's kind of like your souls, but like there's just a connection
Yeah.
that happens sort of without you wanting it to, because Mim was definitely like this old lady, like how annoying. But then there were little sparks of like the things that Arlene said were really cute. Um, and yeah, I think that she was great. I
Yeah, I
loved
saw Arlene as the gateway drug to strangers for
her.
Nim, where I think she needed this first experience in order to open herself up to the others that we meet along the way. Because as you said, she's so put off by even Arlene at first, where she's so in her own head about what she's doing. She has the awkward situation with the poncho man at the bus stop, which puts her off as well as it should, because fucking guys are the worst. But this kind of brings her back, and it is like you said, that intergenerational connection where I think Arlene looks at her and is like, "Not this doesn't completely make sense."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just like I'm not gonna be nosy, but I'm gonna prod a little bit and just make sure that you're kind of okay. I think
Right.
Nim's just like again, she's the way she talks. Arlene, like some of the phrases she uses, where she's like, "That's just a quick way, clever way of putting it, whatever." And she compliments her trainers and everything. And yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that bond. And I kind of didn't mind that Arnold killed her so quickly. Spoilers before spoilers, but it happens early on. I was wondering this as we were going. I'm like, if she's just on a bus, I don't know how fast buses go, but I feel like 960 miles is what, like 2 days on a bus, maybe three tops. I'm like, how are we going to fill in a book here?
Yeah.
So having the bus crash and Arlene being one of the passengers who doesn't survive it, I thought was another interesting growth moment for Mim because this person that she literally didn't want to talk to 12 hours earlier, now she's walking away from this overturned bus crying over because of the light that was just kind of put out. And I thought that was just such a powerful moment and a little break, probably Mim's first whole worldview of reality hitting her.
Yeah, I think that her connection to Arlene was kind of like pure. Yeah, it was short, but I think that that was not saying she hasn't lost things before because obviously she has. Spoilers before spoilers. But I think that now she's at the age where that can be more um she can sit with it differently, the loss.
Mm.
Um and it obviously doesn't mean as much as like a relative or whatever, but I think that she was maybe surprised at how much it affected her, and I think that like you said, kind of informs how she's going to treat strangers or treat relationships going forward, because it's like you don't know what you've got till it's gone kind of
Yeah.
thing, I guess.
Well, it's just a powerful reminder of how fragile life can be and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah,
So yeah, so I enjoyed Arlene. I like that the box she's carrying to her nephew plays a role. Maybe a little bowish, but we'll get to that
yeah,
later.
yeah.
So moving into Walt, what did you think of him as we got to know him?
I mean, I appreciated that we got to spend more time with Walt because what a gem.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it was really like special or helpful that Mim had a friend growing up that was a lot like Walt.
Hmm.
Um, I don't quite remember exactly. I think she was saying that like when they got to school, she ended up kind of like shunning him or something, or like she
Everybody else
was
did. She was like 8, and everybody else would pick on him. And I don't think she like took in on that, but I think she distanced
kids.
herself,
Yeah. And I
as
think
kids do.
right, as kids do. And I think that now that she's older and can kind of appreciate her own past response, I guess, a little bit differently, she has learned from her mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that she already feels how much of a good influence Walt is on her and her mental health, basically.
Yeah.
It's a mutually beneficial kind of relationship, and I like that about them.
Yeah, I just like how he was just this big spark of life and was so
Hmm.
genuinely excited, enthusiastic, happy. And Mim definitely needed that at the point
Totally.
where they come across each
Yeah.
other. And you see, she even mentions when they go back to the camp that it's like the first time she's like laughed, like she in a long time,
Yeah.
or like she catches herself smiling and she doesn't really remember when it came so freely.
Hmm.
So just Walt's enthusiasm and the way he was written throughout was, I thought, really, really well done as he just
Hmm.
became that presence for her, where she takes some responsibility for him as well, because I think he's younger than her, maybe by a year or two. I was thinking like 14, 15.
Maybe, yeah.
And he seemed a little younger, but she kind of says she notices right off the bat again when she wakes up under the overpass and is trying to hitch a ride. The person stops for her, but not for
But
Walt.
not for yeah.
And even that is kind of a thing where she's like coming to realize that there's definitely some things that some privileges she has that aren't afforded to him, especially. So if somebody's going to help him, the
It's
list
gonna
is very short.
right.
So I appreciate that she kind of takes that responsibility on, but also it's not a one-way street as
Yeah,
Walt is giving her so much as well. And just really kind of rekindling that fire that she had lost.
definitely.
So we'll get more into Walt in spoilers as he does continue on the trip. No bus accident for him. Spoilers, for spoilers. But before we get there, we have your get to know your podcaster question. And this one, we'll see where it goes. So Mim creates a few quick friendships on her trip and makes immediate connections with people who were strangers a few minutes before. I was wondering if you've ever connected with someone like that, where you only knew them for a few days, but you had a great connection.
So at first I could only think of people I've met at conventions, but then I was like, most of those people I'm still friends with, so I don't think that counts.
I mean, it does. We don't know if these guys aren't like it's kind of that the way I saw it was we don't know where this goes for Mim, right? We're only on this short journey with her, but we're not, who knows if she's calling or whatever, meeting up with Walt again or Beck. And it's not like those people that you meet are living near you and you see them all the time, like you're both
Right.
making efforts. So,
So
anyway,
that could count. So I mean, at first I was thinking that, and then I was like, but I would consider those people like more than just somebody that you know what I mean? Like it's not a passing thing. So I thought of a different one. So there was this cruise that Barry and I went on in 2017. And on the cruise, we met this woman, Lindsay, and her mom were cruising together. And I don't remember at what point in the cruise we met or how we met. I think maybe it was on an excursion. I don't remember, but Barry and I just clicked with her like immediately. And we spent a lot of time together on the boat. And then we basically like changed, I think her mom and her like changed some excursions up so they could come on stuff with us. And um, it was weird to have a connection like that with somebody. We talked a bunch. She was from California and she had a vape pen, so we hung out with her for those express purposes. Um, and she was awesome. I mean, she still is awesome. I'm still like in contact with her like via social media. We actually invited her to our wedding. She couldn't come, which makes sense because she lives in California. Um, but it was weird having somebody like that um sort of made that much of an impact for such a short amount of time. Like the at one point in the cruise it was nighttime and all the lights went out, like all the power went out on the whole ship, and we were with her in her mom and her had a balcony room, which was like a godsend because it would have been terrifying had we been in our little inside cabin room. So she was a bit of a savior
yeah.
during our during some scary times. But yeah, she was awesome.
For me, like I was trying to think of this. This is one that I wrote down without an answer. already in mind for me because like I think back to I was a big nerd in middle school and high school, so I got selected for like a national program
Ooh.
where I went to Washington D.C. and it was like it was kind of like Model UN, but it wasn't. It was I forget exactly what it was called, but like it was kids from all across the country. I think it was eighth grade, or maybe freshman year, and we all got together and like hung out in Washington for a few days. And there were some people there that like I found like my little notebook there a while back. And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember these people. But that was
Mhm.
like pre-Facebook days. So like we didn't,
Yeah.
there was no connection after that. We had 3 or 4 days together. It was cool. You had a roommate, you made whatever, and then you were gone. Like it must have been before high school because I don't even think we had cell phones. Like it was just whatever. Or maybe we did and I was just a loser. Who knows? But that was one that came to mind. The other ones are like I find myself when I travel now, I travel with people, but like it's people who know people. Like
Mm.
when we went to Rwanda the first time with Seth and Allison and Ben, like those are all people Sully knew. So like, while they were strangers to me, and like I've made friendships with them, it's not like the same. It's not like either one of us we had that mutual connection. And same thing when I went to Belize with the group Amanda goes with, like Dr. Debbie. I ask Amanda about her all the time.
Mhm.
But again, there was a pre-existing relationship there. So the other one that popped in my head was when we did the bus trip they sent out a cameraman and a producer, and they were both like 21, 22. So they're both younger guys. But the producer was the one who like actually like the cameraman did all the work literally of taking the video, right? But the producer was the guy who had to deal with like everybody back at CBS and like make sure we were on time and doing all this. So he was like a ball of stress because he was
Mhm.
dealing with 10, 18-year-old doofuses that didn't really want to listen to what he had to say. So a lot of the guys loved the cameraman. His name was Taylor. So was I. He's a cool guy. But like I talked to Bryce a lot more, who's the producer, because I felt for him as like it's somebody who's been in the leadership position, sick brag, Russ, and trying to corral 10 different people to try to do what you want, or at least some
Yeah.
semblance of that. I could understand that. So we had a lot of good conversations, and by that point we did have Facebook. So we were Facebook friends for a little while, and he like went on to produce for like E and other things, and
Awesome.
that was cool. He when we got to California, he actually let us stay the night at his parents' house in LA. We parked the bus on his street. They had a pool, which was sick, and we
Oh,
slept in their backyard.
amazing.
Yeah, and his dad looked like Kurt Russell. So
Whoa.
I guess it wasn't Kurt Russell, believe it or not.
Oh, bummer.
I know, right? But yeah, nowadays I'm like, oh yeah, I would not talk to anybody when I travel. Like I feel like so with Lindsay,
Yeah.
nailed it. Who made first contact?
I honestly don't remember.
Oh, that's surprising.
I'll have to consult Barry. Like I don't know if he would remember either, but I don't remember where we first like happened across her. But then we were all the four of us were just like attached at the hip.
Yeah.
And when the power went out, her mom was like in the casino. Oh man, that was a fun time. Yeah, I don't remember who. I want to say it was probably me. Um, Maybe it was Lindsay, but like I think her and my um somewhat extroverted energy might have been coming out a little bit more, or maybe it was mine and her mom's. I don't know.
So
Um,
I guess I meant in your between you and Barry. I assumed it was you.
I also would assume it was
Yeah.
me. Like I don't always talk to strangers, but I definitely do it more regularly. Barry and I were just talking about this last night at Costco because he had this interaction with a stranger. Um, Anyway, I we were talking about how it's such a nice little thing. You and I have talked about this too, about just like little compliments. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to have a full-blown conversation, but just like telling somebody, some stranger that their shirt looks nice or that you whatever is such a dopamine hit for them. But then it is like there is no true altruism, and doing something like that still feels good to me because like I know that I've just made that person a little bit happier.
Yeah.
And I
No.
feel like it's that kind of that's my energy. It's like I'll tell a stranger that their shirt is cool.
So I tried that once out in the wild because you can get away with it at con. I feel like people are a lot more talkative there.
Amenable to it, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to do it out in the wild once, and it was this guy who had a D&D shirt that it was like the natural one. It said, well, fuck, or something stupid
Oh
like
yeah.
that. And I was like, oh, it's a cool shirt. And he just like looked at me like, what the fuck, man? And Amanda was like, based on all of that guy, what made you think that he wanted to be talked to? I don't know. So yeah,
Sometimes you don't read it right, and that happens to me too. Or they don't hear you and then it gets awkward.
yep.
Yeah.
Been there for all that. So the reason I asked was about between you and Barry is because obviously, like for us, it'd be Amanda. Like I would just stand in the background and let her go.
Hmm?
And similarly, like when her and Lauren did their trip of Europe, like they did a tour, a guided thing. So they were on a
Mm.
bus and they made a ton of friends there that they like Facebook connected with, and still like they talk about their travels where like they'll when Amanda will be like, oh, whatever, so and so from that trip, her family, they're in Greece now and they're posting pictures. And when we post pictures, or she does, they'll be like, they'll like them and like, oh my God, I have to go there, blah, blah, blah. So it's like a cute little, obviously, social media helps with like the far distance where you can still keep in
Same.
contact with those
Yes,
people.
that Lindsay will send me reels and stuff on Instagram or Facebook of T-Rex stuff because that was like
Nice.
obviously a nickname I was trying to make happen. I just thought of another one though. When I was in studying abroad in Australia, my friends and I went to New Zealand for spring break and we did a bus tour, like a bus thing where it was like a hop on, hop off. Well, not really. It was like you go around to different hostels. So you're with the same group of people. Um, and we met these two British guys, Albie and Seth. And I'm still friends with Albie on Facebook, and probably Instagram too. Anyway, when they came to Australia, Albie's dad or Seth's dad had an apartment in Sydney, and we met up with them again. Like it was super cool. We really connected with them, and now I don't know where they are in the world.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You got to know us a little bit more there, more than usual. So great question, Russ. Thanks, Russ. I like your shirt. And on that note, we're gonna move into spoilers. Before we do that, we have your song. It goes like this. This is the pot that we're going into spoilers. If you don't know the book, get out, because this is the pot that we're going into spoilers. It's time to learn what happens at the end of Mim's journey and what her mother's all about in spoilers. Also, what all the reasons are all about. I should really think of these things beforehand. Anyway, so I did backtrack a little bit for people who haven't read the book. So the Greyhound Mim is taking blows a tire and crashes. Arlene is killed, but Mim picks up the box she was carrying in hopes of completing Arlene's goal of bringing it to her nephew in Kentucky. After they get on another bus, Mim is upset that the man wearing a poncho is still traveling with her, as many of the passengers decided they would rather travel with anyone but Greyhound after the accident. At a gas station, the Poncho Man locks himself in the bathroom with Mim and tries to take advantage of her. Mim is able to force herself to throw up on him and manages to get away before he can get his hands on her. She is shaken but decides she can't go to the police because they would detain her and send her back home and she'd never see her mother. Mim makes a bus change in Tennessee, but the Poncho Man is on that one as well. When they make a pit stop for Pie in Independence, Kentucky, Mim realizes this is where Arlene's nephew owns a gas station with his boyfriend. She decides to get off the bus and try and find him. She struggles and eventually takes a nap under an overpass where she is awoken by Walt. He tells her he has a place they can stay and leads her to a camp in the woods. Mim is reluctant at first, but realizes that Walt has taken her mother's lipstick while she was sleeping. He loves shiny things and won't admit to it when she asks. Things are nice at the campsite until the other boy shows up. Caleb gives Mim bad vibes and she is no longer comfortable at the campsite. She has a bad night of sleep where she wakes up and overhears Caleb talking to someone else about robbing Walt and making their way to California. She is shocked to find that it is Caleb talking to himself in two distinct voices. The next morning, she makes a run for it with Walt and they find refuge at a gas station. The owner beats up Caleb for them, and Mim is shocked to learn that he is Arlene's nephew. She gives him the box, and after escaping from the police, her and Walt try to buy an old truck out of someone's yard. The man won't sell it to her because she doesn't have a license, and that is when we meet Beck, who was the handsome guy on the bus and Mim also saw at the police station with a black eye. The man sells them the truck, and the three take off for Cleveland. Along the way, Mim learns that Beck assaulted the Poncho Man after seeing him come out of the women's bathroom at the pie place following a different young girl from the bus who was visibly upset. He put it together and attacked him, which got him kicked off the bus. As they make their way to Cleveland, we learn more about Beck's backstory, and Mim falls in love with him. They make a pit stop at a Cubs-Reds game in Cincinnati because the Cubs are Walt's favorite team. They also stop at Beck's foster sister's house nearby, but she claims not to know who he is or their history together, which breaks Beck. When they get close to Cleveland, Mim tells Beck how she feels, and he tells her that he is too old for her, at least for now, and the soft landing allows Mim to still cherish their friendship. Before they get to Cleveland, they decide to stop at Mim's old house, and while she is going through it, Beck and Walt go back to the hotel to try to find Beck's phone. This is where Mim's stepmother catches up to her. Kathy explains that Mim's mother, Eve, is in a rehab facility and didn't want Mim to contact her while she was there. The letter that Mim found and used as evidence was one that Kathy had written to Eve and that she had returned without opening. Mim meets her mother and finds that she is a shell of who she once was. The spark in her has gone. It almost breaks her, but before she leaves, Mim applies the lipstick she carried all the way to her mother's face, and Mim applies the lipstick she's carried all this way to her mother's face and sees a glimmer of a spark in her eyes before she leaves. When they exit the facility, Beck, Walt, and the truck are gone, and Mim worries that they were some fantasy she concocted because her dad is convinced she may have a mental illness like his sister Isabel, who had hung herself when Mim was a child. Before the thoughts get too heavy, she sees the note, and it's Beck telling her he's stealing her truck and bringing Walt to Chicago to try to find his family. They call it a liquid goodbye in hopes that they will meet again. We learn that the letter Mim has been writing is to her unborn half-sister that Kathy is pregnant with. The big reason she fled was her dad telling her about the pregnancy and Mim realizing that he was cheating on her mother with Kathy before the divorce. She has hated Kathy, but because of this experience, now sees her in a different light. The book ends with Mim confiding in Kathy about being blind in her right eye, something she never told anyone else. So we start with our third amigo in the truck known as Uncle Phil, and that is Beck, who plays a huge role in our story and becomes Mim's love interest. I was wondering what you thought of him as a character.
I thought he was pretty great. I mean, their chemistry is really solid, like the three of them.
Hmm.
Um, I think that he maybe gets a little bit of a knight in shining armor vibe, just like swooping in when needed.
Yeah.
Um, but that kind of also makes him endearing. Um, I I feel like he tried to set it up like there's mystery to Beck, in terms of his backstory and his sister, half sister, whatever, foster sister. Um, and I get that, but I also kind of was like, not, is this a critical thing? Do I actually want to know or need to know? I don't know. It didn't like leave me feeling like I needed to dig super deep,
Yeah.
because he was bringing a lot to the table in the moment. Um, and I just really liked how he interacted with both Walt and Mim, and how he was older than the both of them, so he definitely took on a little bit more of a responsible role.
Yeah.
Um, but he did it in a way that wasn't like bossy or, authoritarian. He was very one of the gang, and I really liked that.
Yeah, I thought the only part in this story that felt a little clunky was with his foster sister Claire. I didn't really understand what happened there, uh,
Yeah.
other than her rejecting him and rejecting the thought that they had any past together, and like it wasn't any kind of relationship other than just that kind of sibling one. And we learned that Claire's father died when he was supposed to get her out of foster care, and like that kind of threw her for a loop, and it seems like she's just had a rougher life, and we learned that Beck feels like he could have done more for her,
Yeah.
and so maybe that's part of where that savior complex comes from, is the fact that he feels like
Missed
he
an
failed her.
opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, I also kind of got the impression, and maybe this was wrong, that she was maybe like had a drug problem or something.
And I did get a little bit of that, or
Yeah.
maybe an alcohol thing or something,
Yeah, some
definitely.
some kind of addiction issue, maybe.
Yeah, which just probably furthered Beck's feelings of
Sure.
failure. I wondered if she was in there to make Mim feel her feelings more head on, as far as
Mhm.
like the love interest side. Like we see that she is uh jealous in a way of Claire, as Beck is talking to her on the phone and he wants to stop and see her, and she's wondering what this is really all about and
Yeah,
everything before Beck comes clean, I guess you could say about it. So maybe there was some of that, but it did just feel like that was the one part of the story
I agree.
that it felt a little clunky. And there were bows. It was interesting. We'll get to the end later, but there was like bows all over this story until the ending, where the fact that the bus driver decides to stop for pie in Independence, Kentucky, and outside the pie there's like four gas stations, and Mim's like, "Oh, Ahab, Arlene's nephew, owns a gas station here. That should be pretty easy to find. I'm gonna get off the bus." And you knew that Beck was going to play a bigger role as soon as he was the hot guy in seat
Yeah,
17C.
yeah,
So him being able to come up when they were bargaining for the truck and all that. But then even just with where Claire lived was right outside of Cincinnati. And the whole reason they went to Cincinnati was there was a rain delay in the Cubs game, so they could make it and yada yada yada. So there were like a lot of bows there that sometimes I will say there are like those happy accidents when you're road tripping that
yeah,
just things pop up, things happen, and it can add to the trip. I think you're a little bit more open to things, but there
totally.
were quite a couple of those. I was like, okay, we're kind of literally connecting the dots a little too cutely.
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely a lot of bows like that for sure. I do also agree that the Claire storyline was a little, I don't want to say left field necessarily, but it felt a little um less important than all the other things, and it kind of was strange that it was mattered in there. I don't, yeah, that was the one I was like least impressed with, I think.
Yeah, same. I like you said, I think he wanted to make Beck a little bit mysterious, but there wasn't really a need to do that because Beck, like you said, won us over with not just how he treated Mim, but how he was with Walt. And yeah, like the way he feels that connection with Mim too. But like he realizes he is 21 or 22, somewhere in there, and Mim's 16. So yeah, does it matter when you're 54 and she's 48, as she points out? No. Does it matter when you're 22 and she's 16? Yes, it does. So the fact that he was able to are you just frozen right now? Nope, it's
You,
me.
yeah, you were frozen
I
for a
was like,
very long time.
you are thinking very hard on this question. Could you still hear me?
No, I heard you say Walt and it froze on your face going,
Awesome. So we'll see how that comes out in audio.
Mm.
So not just the way he was with Mim, but how he was with with Walt, and the fact that he felt that connection with Mim as well, but knew that it wasn't the right time. Again, he was 22, she was 16, which Mim even points out if he's 54 and I'm 48, it's not a big deal. It's like, yeah, right. But if you're 16, he's 22, it is a big deal.
Yeah,
So I appreciated that. Well, he felt something. He was still knew what to do, knew the right way to handle it. And then, like I said in spoilers, like he gives her that soft landing with, like she says, just in one last breath, as he's like, at least for now or whatever. She's like,
yeah.
keeps me hoping or whatever, like leaves it open for the future. That I thought was handled very well because you don't want to see Mim freak out because the guy knocks down her advances or whatever.
Exactly. And I think at some point after that, she mentions how, like being able to have a friendship with him and that connection with him is still important to her and perhaps more important. Like she'd rather have that than nothing,
Right.
which totally valid. I always like think about relationships like that, where I'm kind of like gives me like a gut ick, but then I'm like, Dana Numer,
Yeah, no, that
which
one was tough.
also is ick.
That one was tough to read.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing I took away from those books. I was like, really?
It's
This?
so hard not to. I have so many like, are you okay, Tamara? Like, what's up? Because that's not the only pairing that's like that.
Yeah, yeah. The May December, but we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing, just for Beck in general, the vibe I got from him was he was like a student taking a gap year, but instead of doing it between high school and college, he did it his junior year of college. Where like
Right.
I think he realizes the path he went down maybe isn't the one for him. He talks about how
Mhm.
photography might be his thing, but I liked how he again just another person kind of searching for
Mhm.
answers and is kind of open to what comes next. Like I liked that he continues on the journey with Walt. That they even talk
Yes.
about that. Like Mim even brings that up. Like where I don't know where this ends for us. Like I have a very clear end point. It's getting to
Right.
Cleveland, getting to my mother. But like
Right.
Walt was living in the woods because supposedly his mom had died and his dad just left him somewhere. And Beck is,
Dads are shitty in these stories.
you
In
know,
this
David,
story.
was your dad okay? It doesn't sound
Right?
like it.
Well, he did say something in the author's note, I think, about that.
Um, and then Beck's on this like Odyssey where he's like, maybe I'll go to Canada, maybe I'll go to Vermont. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, shut up, Vermont. This guy loves New England.
he does.
Uh,
Um,
and then
I
the last thing on just the two of them, I did appreciate too that Mim pointed out that this was more than just a crush. Like it wasn't some just infatuation that she had. Like she felt some kind of connection here that he felt too. And again, just kind of having that mutual love of Walt between them two, where Walt was never really the third wheel in this, and
yeah,
because that relationship never really happened, they could focus on the three of them rather than just kind of pushing him out or however that might have happened.
yeah, yeah. I honestly sometimes like their way that they interacted didn't necessarily feel like it needed to go in a romantic direction. Like the three of them could easily be like siblings,
Yeah.
like that kind of care, sort of innate care for each other. Um, yeah, I thought their little team was so cute.
It was very well written. They each, again, needed each other for something, but it was so mutual through
hmm
everything, where everyone brought something to the table. Any one of them it wasn't any one of them being lesser or anything like that. And they all needed one another. So yeah, it was just so well written that you wanted to just be an Uncle Phil with them and hear
Yeah.
the stories and whatever.
Yeah, I definitely too the way that it was left with Walt and Beck continuing on to like find out what happened to Walt or like where his place is. I really like was kind of bummed that we don't get to learn if Walt's okay.
Yeah.
I hope that that's the case. I'm gonna like write my own ending there and assume that they figured out some sort of scenario. Um, or in like a perfect world, they could just like adopt Walt into their own or Beck's own because he's essentially an adult.
Well, and like we have that moment where as she's thinking about it, Mim talks about what the future could be, where maybe we just live this nomad life basically. The three of us go town to town and we work
Yeah.
odd jobs and
Yeah,
we live, and then when we get tired of that, we go somewhere else and we live there. And yeah, a little bit of a childish dream, but not a bad one to hold on to.
for sure. Especially because I think like the takeaway that they both have from Walt, he like brings so much joy and stuff. I could envision them being like doing that, going to different place to place and working odd jobs and having Walt like change people's opinions about people and like I just think that would just be so cute.
So, moving on, this book deals with mental illness and the people struggling with it a lot. We have a lot of different examples of that. I was wondering what stood out to you about how Arnold handled this subject.
I think he did it really well. I think I said this before we started recording, but he managed to cover really sort of dense subject matter in a YA way that wasn't condescending.
Mm,
Like it was very accessible to a young reader or to any reader really, but it was even still accessible to young people in the way that, Mim was describing things and Mim was recounting how her dad was treating her and all this stuff felt very relatable. Um, and she very honest.
mm.
Um, and I think that that's something that's really important, not like glorifying or demonizing or just like making light of certain things. I think it was a very good representation of probably what some people might be going through and not realizing they are, or that kind of thing. So yeah, I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think the realism here really showed through in like even dealing with her dad.
Hmm.
And once we get the full, like that was a plot twist, right? Because we have early on in the book her kind of, she remembers sitting at her Aunt Isabel's feet,
Hmm.
and Isabel's writing a letter, and she tells Mim like how important it is to send letters. And so as she's writing this journal, she's addressing it to Isabel. So I
I thought it
assume,
was that, Isabel.
yeah, she's letting her aunt know what's going on in her own way or whatever. And then the twist is we learned that Isabel, after she had written that letter, basically had hung herself in the basement of their family home, and Mim had found her, and that put that changed the trajectory of her family as well, as we see her dad struggling with it. I think her dad, we he the memory she points out is Mim playing basically like grocery store, where she's playing the part of like customer and cashier, and she's doing voices or whatever using her imagination. And her dad is like, no, that's like Isabel had that too, the split personality thing.
Um, Point of order. Uh, Kids playing pretend and doing voices and stuff, totally fucking normal,
Yeah.
Barry. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I understand that he's probably a little traumatized with what happened to his sister. Um, but he does not have any kind of understanding of what normal childhood seems to be. So,
So, point of order, just for those who haven't read the book, the dad's name is Barry. She's not your
right, sorry.
husband anyway.
He does give berries a bad name.
There's a zero imagination at Tasha and Barry's house. You're not allowed to use it. But that's what I see. That's what I found realistic about it is I could see that fear, and again, the feeling that he let her down, he failed her, and that pushing him to the extremes where he's like, she's got to be medicated. We got
Yeah.
to get her help first, and when that doctor wasn't doing enough, we've got to get her medicated, and that was obviously a sticking point between him and his wife, between him and her mother, and I think that was this first branch where that relationship kind of started souring because of how they were handling that. And he didn't see it any other way. And you've read that really old book that he was like, oh, this guy knew everything. And then the doctor was like, that book was written in the 20s. We've actually learned since then.
Yeah, that bit was pretty infuriating. Like to have her recounting her experience with the one doctor, Dr. Makundi, that like was really helpful to her and I think took a much better approach to treating her. And then to have her dad step in and be like, we need to do this feels very obnoxious parent
Mhm.
mode. Just like from my berries, recounting of how parents can be at school, where they're like stepping in and being like, I know how to. You should be teaching my kid when these people are professionals. Like these doctors know what they're doing. Granted, he went and found a doctor that more aligned with his worldview that people should be medicated. Um, but I think that even that portrayal was really realistic because I
Yeah.
think there's definitely, multiple schools of thought, but you hear mostly about the ones that are no medication versus medication. And I think that was a very realistic
And
view.
it's trauma dumping from one
Yeah.
generation to the next, where if her dad looked at himself and said, I am the one with the issue, I should go to therapy, whatever, maybe he works through that and realizes that his daughter, there's nothing wrong with his daughter, and whatever he feels about how he felt with his sister, it's not, he doesn't need to push that on to Mim. Maybe that changes the whole story too, but that again is realistic where people don't go to
Don't do
therapy or
that.
don't see them as the
Don't
problem.
self-reflect.
Yeah. No, no, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I also feel very strongly about the portrayal, I guess, of his portrayal of her kind of recognizing the fact that the meds like don't make her feel like herself.
Yeah.
And then when we finally meet up with her mom again and how she's basically like a shell of her former self, like this is what that can happen.
Yeah.
And I think that was I think she was already like not taking the stuff. But I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for that style of treatment for
Yeah,
her.
she had already kind of weaned herself off. Like I think she broke a pill in half one day, and then it was just she
Taking
noted
it.
that she had stopped taking it for a few days, and notice some of her reactions to things that she thought was just how she was might have been the withdrawal symptoms coming off this
Which
medication.
hilarious when she was like reading the pill bottle and it was like taking it can cause extreme nausea, not taking it can cause extreme nausea. I was like, wow, lose lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds familiar with many
Right?
medications. I so moving on, but similarly, I really appreciated how he put in the portrayal of Caleb and who she called Shadow Kid, which was like the other persona of Caleb, as she sneaks up on him at night and hears him making this big plan to rob Walt. And what do we do about the girl? I don't know if she's a problem, whatever. And she thinks it's Caleb and an older gentleman, and it turns out to just be Caleb talking to himself in two very distinct voices. I liked how she even reflects on it. Like, in case it doesn't hit you on the head as the reader, she reflects on it later on, where it's like, that's what
What my
my
dad
dad's
thinks
worried
of me.
about. Like, that's what he sees. And, like, even then, she's still questioning it because if your parents or your dad tells you that you're one way, then yeah, she's like, gonna have those moments where she's like, is it though? I do have episodes sometimes, but
She's also like a malleable age, when
yeah.
he's telling her all of these things or projecting all of this stuff on her. She's young enough, I mean, even still, but she was young enough when he's saying all these things to her to not have that self
Awareness.
awareness, thank you, to say no, that's not me or whatever. It also, the Caleb bit gave me massive Last House on Needless Street vibes.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. 100%. I like how we can keep pulling from books. It's like we've been
Mm.
doing this a while.
Hmm.
And then to close it out, two things. Just we'll finish with Mim first, I guess, but her at the end realizing that or having that moment of fear where she wonders if she made up Walt uh and Beck, or if they really existed. Now, it wouldn't make sense because she was in a car or the truck and everything. So it wouldn't make sense that how she got here, but who knows with mental illness how that works. So I appreciated. Is your couch being delivered?
No, the
Okay.
dog, the mailman just drove by and the dog was losing her shit.
Nice. So I appreciated that she still had that moment where she questions herself, and then it's the Reds flyer that Walt has written in and Beck has written a goodbye in. That is okay. Now I have something tangible because even the truck's gone, right? So, well, it doesn't make sense as the reader where something else just did that recently, where it's like, oh, it was me all along or whatever, and you're like, but that doesn't actually make the story work. So like
Yeah,
if it had been in her head, it wouldn't have actually it wouldn't
makes
have
sense.
worked
Yeah,
because how did all of these things happen?
right.
But
Unless she was like in a coma or something and like dreaming.
right. But it did make sense that she would still question herself. And then again, to have that physical something she can hold on to tell her that, no, this is real. I'm actually, I'm okay.
Yeah,
It isn't some delusional thing. I thought was just a perfect ending for Mim to continue to grow. Because that is, sometimes I complain when books end. It's like, and that was Tuesday, and you're left. It doesn't give you like that full ending. This one, well, it did do that. It did also give you that full ending, I think, was just in growth and everything with Mim, where she's turning the page on her kind of past and the way she thought, like she grew so much in front of our eyes.
yeah,
But yeah, I really liked that moment too, where we just came back to it just to really put the nail in that one that she's going to be okay.
for sure. And I liked how this version of a goodbye was almost more um impactful. Like it made me tear up and everything. Which I think an actual if they'd stayed there and said goodbye to her, like I'm sure it would have been bittersweet or whatever, but I don't think it would have been as satisfying to read, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because it's a different way of doing it. So,
Yeah,
and I liked how Beck revisited a conversation and was like, this,
yeah,
now that I have had time to think about it, this is what I should have said.
right,
It was a good
right.
moment. And then finally, just the portrayal of her mother and somebody going through assuming depression at this facility where she talks about how she's just a shell of a person of herself. And like, I completely can understand well, I can't. I've never. Yeah, I can understand how she didn't want Mim to see her or talk to her in that way, and I know she's probably focusing on herself. But that was tough to see. But
Mm.
again, realistic, where kind of people, when they're in that state of mind, pull more into themselves and are very much more against outsider help, or like, they don't want people to see them at their worst moments kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sad to see her like that. I think especially because what you'd said earlier about how Mim sort of had a different picture of her mom in her head, kind of conflated maybe how awesome and amazing she is, was, whatever. Um, I think that it was important for Mim to see how the state she was in. Um, but it felt a little like an anticlimactic bow almost. Like
Mm.
I don't know what I was expecting when she found her mom, but um yeah, I'm not sure that I don't know. I guess maybe Bose isn't quite right. I guess he did button things up. And Mim certainly learned a bit about the state of things. It wasn't necessarily that her mom wasn't being kept from her by Kathy, so obviously that was important. And it was clearly her mom's decision to kind of separate herself, but I think the takeaway that um, everyone's their own individual and has to do what's right for themselves. Like, I couldn't tell if Mim was recognizing that or was like upset or sad or whatever that her mom was in this like shell of herself kind of state. It didn't, I guess what I'm saying is it didn't feel super hopeful for her mom.
So I liked that moment where, like, I pulled that from the book where she says she saw like just a spark in her eye after she like applied the lipstick, which for Mim is like her war paint, and we can talk about that too. But like, I liked that. That is, maybe she sees a glimmer of her mother coming back, and maybe her mother understanding that like maybe her like Mim's old enough to be able to deal with this kind of situation. Like, I could
Yeah.
see maybe being like, oh, I can't put this on my kid or whatever. And from Mim's perspective, she runs away when she finds out that her with Kathy's pregnant. And then she does the math and realizes her dad cheated on her mom with Kathy, and she blames herself for Kathy, as we learned, because her dad wanted to go to
Dating her.
IHOP or whatever, and she likes
Yeah.
Denny's better, and that's where they meet because Kathy was a Denny's waitress. So that's a whole ball of stuff going on in her head, and I think we can understand, and hopefully Mim can too, if I had this reaction, like, how does mom feel when she puts this all together? And
Right.
yeah, but yeah, it was definitely, there's still questions around her mom as we didn't get that full picture, but I
Yeah.
think it was mostly just about Mim realizing that um like, it's not all, I think it was just Mim realizing like it's not all Kathy's fault, and her mother, hopefully is going to come out of this, and maybe your
I
mom
also
now knows that it's okay for them to still talk or
I
whatever.
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, for a majority of the book, thought that she was trying to get to her mom because her mom was like in the hospital dying of some disease. Like,
Right. Me too.
so it was kind of a strange twist, I guess, to have it be something more akin to not necessarily what Mim is going through, but like a mental health crisis as
Yeah.
opposed to like a physical health crisis.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely surprising. And it just makes me wonder how Mim really thought she was going to find her. Like, she had a P.O. box in Cleveland. Like, Mim, what the hell's
Yeah,
going
a
on?
PO box is a PO box, my girl. It's
Yeah,
not,
well, I'll just wait for, maybe she, I think she said that. She's like, I'll wait till she picks up the mail and go from there.
yeah, not
Yeah.
gonna be doing any of that.
So we touched on this pretty much there, but was there anything else you wanted to talk about with the ending, with Mim finding her mother and then the realization she comes to about Kathy? Or we could talk about Kathy in general.
Yeah, I mean, Kathy in general, I think like she definitely had some growth in terms of her relationship with Kathy. I think kind of recognizing that maybe Kathy isn't all bad. I mean, it's kind of hard to get away from Kathy and her dad were cheating because
Yeah.
she's pregnant already and the big breaking news and everything. But like we talked about before, Kathy's the one kind of carrying the team of caring for Mim,
Yeah.
and caring about where she is. And I think once we got to meet Kathy and see how she actually was and how she did all these things with such purpose, finding Mim in the old house and then like taking her to her mom and like forgetting her keys and giving her a chance to read the note by herself. Like I think there's more credit due to Kathy than obviously than Mim gives her. But
Yeah.
then we like even as the reader kind of are getting a little bit more of that. Honestly, Kathy's better than her dad.
Yeah. Well, we're getting the evil stepmother vibes, and even Beck mentioned something at some point. That's like their first fight is
Yeah.
about how evil Kathy is, and of course she isn't. We're just getting her through Bim's eyes. But as you said, the missed calls. It's like 67 from Kathy and two from her dad.
So lame.
There's like the missing poster she comes across in her old hometown, which obviously Kathy had something to do with.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, I appreciated that part of the ending where, yeah, well, we're not sure what the future holds for her mom, for
Hmm.
Eve. At least we know that like Mim and Kathy are going to be okay. And yeah, it's a shitty situation how this all started, but, and Kathy is somewhat to blame for that as much as Barry is.
Yeah.
But she's obviously making the effort, and you see that time and time again that she's really trying to get close to Min. She wants her to have a good relationship with her future sister,
Right.
and everything.
Not the once we discovered that the letters were to future Isabel and not past Isabel, um, that was really interesting, and it kind of painted a different picture of what Mim was sharing,
Mm.
that I really liked. I think it was like um, sad but hopeful. Like she is kind of coming to terms with the fact that I'm sure having a half sibling when it is a product of cheating and whatnot is tough. Like, um, but I think that she it was so cute how she like what did her dad say when they gave her the journal? It was something like, write about how like shitty everything is,
Yeah.
basically. And so she was like, I think she did a good job mixing the realism with the past. I don't know what I'm trying to say, other than I think it was like a nice little hopeful thing for the future.
Yeah, and I think it's her coming to terms with not being angry at the baby too, at future
Right.
Isabel. Again, similarly, where yes, Kathy takes some of the blame, but she's getting too much of it, you know? So you can't be mad at that baby because that baby, it's not its fault at all.
Right.
And
They didn't choose this.
right. And even as she says, like, that's the breaking news that when she finds out that she's coming, she runs away. Like, that's not really the first impression you want to give. So I like that, assuming she gives this to Isabel at some point later on, she will understand the emotions that her older sister was going to and gets it.
Yeah.
Like, I think, as Barry says, like, this is like a picture in time of who you were at this moment that hopefully they can relate to. Because I'm sure also having a sister who's 16 or 17 years older than you is going to be
It'll be
difficult to
weird.
connect
Yeah.
with as well. So yeah, and then just that end moment where she tells Kathy that she's blind in her right eye,
I
which
like
she had never told anybody. And again, as it says in the beginning,
that.
it's not anything until you actually say it out loud. So I thought that was just a really good full circle moment there
Circle.
as well,
Yeah.
where she is, because she was going to tell her mom. She was going to tell Eve, and she makes a point
Right.
of that. And then when she gets there, she realizes she can't do that. So it just shows that level of trust that she's building with Kathy. I was so worried. I was like, does this end in a car accident at the end? Because she trusts her to look right? Like, Jesus Christ, don't do that. So much better ending.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Before we get to the other spoilers, just touching on the war paint,
Oh yeah.
where Mim has this dream where she's kind of herself and her mother, and she goes to her mother's dresser and finds her favorite lipstick, which is lipstick that she had put on Mim at one point as like her makeover, her 5 second makeover. She probably went to the second floor of a Santa Monica to learn how to do it. And it keeps disappearing as she's putting it on in her dream, but then she makes this very specific war paint, as she
Pattern.
calls it, that keeps coming, it keeps fading until she puts it on enough that it stays. And so whenever she is feeling overwhelmed or something like that, she covers her face with this lipstick in a specific pattern. And she was doing that in the bus when the accident happens. And she mentions how she doesn't usually do it in public. She brings like bags and bags of makeup remover to try to get it off, yada, yada, yada. What did you think of that? Just kind of, I guess, also the lipsticks journey. We could touch on that because it plays an important part in how she meets Walt.
Yeah.
It's kind of the ending moment for her and her mom. What did you make of the war paint, etc.?
So I think the war paint and how she uses it is a really interesting sort of grounding tool, I
Mm,
guess I'd call it. Whenever she's sort of experiencing like a not a mental breakdown, but when she's feeling adrift, I think it is a technique she has taught herself. And maybe there's something to do with what she's learned with from Dr. McCundy in that. I don't know, but because it would be pretty impressive if she's just like doing it on her own.
mm,
But I think that it's a really interesting tool, and I appreciate that she sort of recognizes it for what it is, and breaks it out when she needs it. I couldn't for the life of me picture the actual pattern on her face. Like
yeah, me
we've
neither.
heard it represented multiple times, and I still was like, I don't quite know exactly what this looks like, but it's okay because the sort of results that it got were clear enough. And also the lipstick itself, it was again kind of a grounding thing. Like she talked about how often she would like make sure like grab it in her pocket and kind of reminded me of like a worry stone kind of thing. And I don't know, I think having tools like that or items like that can be really obviously very helpful. Um, yeah.
It made me think of like the widgets in Inception, where they use them to tell if they're dreaming or not.
Oh,
Like that was like
yeah.
saying grounding or centering object. Like I think that you hit it right on the head, where like that's her connection still. Like probably she feels like her only connection to her mother at this point. And as she's adrift, where she hasn't heard from her from 3 weeks, you can see why it would make so much more sense why she would be holding on to it so tightly. Why when Walt takes it again, because Walt just likes it because it's shiny and it was in her hand when she fell asleep and probably fell out of her hand and he picked it up and then he didn't want to admit it because he loves shiny things, but eventually he does obviously give it back to her. But then just again, I guess full circles the phrase for this episode of her putting the lipstick on her mother and then saying like whatever she said, the same thing she said to her, which is like perfect or something like that, or that's
Mm.
better, whatever. And leaving the lipstick there for her, which was like it was just that whole moment for her of and I guess also realizing she doesn't need it anymore, maybe. Like she's gonna be
Maybe,
okay.
yeah. Or realizing that her maybe her mom needs it more or something. And I
Yeah.
think that it, like you said, full circle to her dream where she is her mom. Like I think that there's a lot of parallels with perhaps with what they're dealing with mentally,
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
Obviously different things, like she hasn't been cheated on, but I think
Right.
that they're mother and daughter, so there's probably a little bit of similarities in there
Yeah.
psychosis, I guess, but like the it felt a little bit like a passing of a torch or like you said kind of a releasing the need of the thing anymore.
So to finish that up on the cover, if you look at her on top of the bus,
Yeah,
you can
she
see
has
one
it on
side
her
of the face
face.
paint or the war paint.
So is
Um,
it like an arrow across her nose?
I think it's like I think it connects at the nose and it's like an arrow on each side and then over the top, and I think it's a line down the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean you don't see
There was
her
also some
front on.
dots in there, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting choices. We've touched on this quite a bit, but just her dad Barry sucks, huh?
Yep.
As you
Yeah,
said,
he's the worst. I said Barry, giving Barry's a bad name, and
that's
then
it.
that he was a jerk. I mean, he just like all of the trauma dumping, as you said, and just like the projecting all of his own shit onto his daughter. And I think at one point she says that she's like remembering something from childhood where he wanted to have a son and he takes her out into the yard with a bat and they like hit lightning bugs.
Yeah,
And I was like, fucking creeper. Like, what are you doing?
yeah.
Not cool. I don't like him.
And even like her mother says she remembers her mother saying this once when they were coming back from the she talks about the Labor Day weekend. The reason this is a big weekend for them is they had found this like cul-de-sac that was like an escapism. She says it's
Oh
like
yeah.
us going down the rabbit hole. And it's just this place where everybody's so much more free and partying. And it was her and her mother's like little secret thing, and they had fireworks and all this stuff. And the last time they're leaving, and then her mother says it again, I believe, when she sees her, "Yeah, I loved him and he never loved me," or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry left a lot to be desired here. And I think it's interesting, like I think her mother has the break because she mentions that one day she's just gone. Like I think after the night of her dream, she goes into their room and her mother has left in the night. Uh, but otherwise, like I feel like her mother, if she didn't have that psychic break, she would have like pushed more for to keep Mim, right? Because there's no
Yeah.
reason her dad deserved Mim at all for everything he did.
No.
And then to
And
drag
it
her to
seemed like,
Mosquitoland.
yeah, it seemed like Mim and her mom had maybe a stronger connection anyway. Um,
But even so, I think she kind of maybe expected something or other because you could see like in the moments of the backstory, even before the divorce or the separation, her mom was kind of sliding away.
yeah,
I think as Mim talks about that as well. So there's definitely more going on there
for sure.
beforehand. Uh, we touched on it with Arlene and the box for her nephew Ahab. I was just wondering what you thought of that little moment in our story as the savior is the guy that we stopped here to look for.
Massive bows.
Yeah.
What I said the bows were sweep the leg Johnny bows. Um, yeah, so I appreciated it only because I really liked Arlene and I liked that there was somewhat of some closure there. Because it would have been hella awkward if she just like kept the
That's fine.
box
Yeah.
forever. Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Had taken it with her all past that area. Um, the picture they painted of Ahab and the boyfriend though was a little weird.
Yep.
And I don't know if that was like 16-year-old Mim, like her interpretation of what was going on, but it was definitely a little off-putting.
Yeah. Yeah. Albert seemed very just strange depiction.
Yeah.
And the fact that Ahab is swimming in their pool, which is like something on top of the roof of their gas station doing
Yeah.
karate. Yeah, the whole thing was a little bit out there for sure. But at least in terms of story, like if she doesn't do that, if she doesn't get off the bus there, she doesn't meet Walt. So like, yes, it is bows on bows that Walt knows to run to that gas station because he is friends with Ahab and Albert. Like, sure, they protected them from Caleb. Okay, but yeah, it was just so many sweep the leg Johnny Bows.
It was. I do appreciate though that like when she first gets off at that town or stays in that town that she like checks a couple of and misses out. You
Yeah,
know, that would have been
too clean.
too clean, although maybe this is cleaner. I don't know. It just, I mean, at least he gave us that there was some failures and then a success.
Yeah, yeah. There wasn't behind door number one.
Yeah.
And we don't get to learn what's in the box, which I think is an interesting
What's in the box?
what's in the box. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on for spoilers?
No. I think we covered everything.
I think we did too. Good job, us. So, on that note, we're going to move out of spoilers and moving out of spoilers, but not yet away from the book. We have to give it our grade first. We do this based on the D&D D20 scale. So, 1 is bad, 20 is good. And then we add or subtract a characteristic modifier, skill, or ability from the game Dungeons and Dragons that we think best fits the story. We alternate every episode. So, this time, Taja is going first. Taja, what'd you give this on the roll?
I gave it a straight roll of 17. I thought it was really solid. I definitely like the way that he writes. I think he's very, as we said, succinct. He doesn't put a lot of fluff in. He explains the, not the world building because it is our world, but the situation that people are in very well. His characters are generally very endearing, and this is another case of that. The chemistry between the characters, he also writes really well, and it's entertaining to read. It's not as though the storyline was edge of your seat or anything, but I definitely wanted to keep coming back and finding out how these characters were doing.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate the YA take on things. I think he does a really good job making it an intelligent portrayal of tough topics, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say too, like it's YA, but there's quite a bit of like swearing. It's a more mature YA than some of the YAs we've read, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's like
It's for anyone.
it's like high school YA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and I liked the just general sort of coming of age story, somebody sort of figuring themselves out. And that's why I gave it a +1 for insight, because I think Mim learned a lot about herself and she grew, kind of more comfortable in her own skin and more comfortable dealing with the world around her. Obviously, there were some ups and some downs. Poncho Man, I'm looking at you. Um, and I think that was sort of a really good, realistic way to um, have her learning things that weren't too um, painful to read. It was a good mix of good and bad and struggles and successes and so forth. So I think her takeaways were um, that it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, she learned a lot more too, obviously, about Kathy and like her own familial situation. So yeah, we should all be so lucky to be comfortable in our own skin. So that's an 18.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I agree on a lot of what you said. I also gave this a dice roll of 17. This I read this in maybe 36 hours. Like it just
Wow.
seemed to flow very easily. There weren't a lot of big words I had to worry about. And even again, just the way he worked in and out of the journal to make it part of the story, so there wasn't even that break, I thought worked really well. And kept me interested. So to start, I was like, "Oh, it's 300 and something pages of a bus trip. How's this going to work?" And he made it work very well. And then going back and covering it for spoilers, and looking through and being like how deep we were in by the time we're like we stay with Walt in Independence for quite a while,
Yeah.
before we even move on to Beck and all that. So it was interesting to see how he plotted his time. And then the third act or whatever, our big ending, I thought was really well written out, where even though we did, like, Mim has that moment in the bathroom beforehand where like she talks about her nerves and everything. I think the only part he maybe stalled out on was that last letter to Isabel, but that's fine. You're kind of wrapping up that part of the story as well. And it's like he used an extra 2 pages. It wasn't anything ridiculous. So I thought the pacing was really well and everything. It kind of really took points away because it was a little too bowish,
Yeah.
especially in the middle, as we were kind of just talking about. Where, as I said, on trips, sometimes you fall into really cool situations. But to be like, oh, hey, we're 10 minutes from this now. And no, we're like the rain happened and we can go to that ball game. Oh, like it was just a little bit too cutesy in there. But like you said, I appreciated how he dealt with some very serious issues and put it in ways that you could understand and interpret. For me, that we're almost exactly right because I thought about insight too, but I went +1 with wisdom for basically the same reasons. For the wisdom that Mim gains, and for the wisdom she kind of gives out as well. Like, I think her interaction with Beck really helped him too. Like, he now has a bit more of a purpose, as we see in the end with him and Walt. And obviously, her relationship with Kathy, her understanding of her mother. Like, I think it's one of those moments for her. Maybe it is the moment that we all have to have at some point where we realize our parents are people too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's insane, and as we get older, I think about my parents at this age, and like I thought they knew everything, and I'm still trying to figure out what to
Yeah.
make for dinner. So there's just so much of
Um,
that stuff that you realize. And I think this was maybe the first point for Mim, where she realizes that, and maybe with her dad, with everything that happened with Kathy beforehand, she realized he's a person and a shitty one at that. But anyway, I think she gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. So, but yeah, I was thinking insight there as well. So close to almost the same, but that is an 18 for me as well. So
Nice.
easy math. That is an 18 overall for the book. Debut novel, pretty incredible. I
Oh,
found it
good.
interesting in the acknowledgments. He talks about how he always knew the book was going to be called Mosquitoland. It was going to be based around him, but
Mhm.
originally it was about a girl moving to different towns and not fitting in high school. And then it became this whole like Odyssey type story where it's about her kind of finding her home in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
I
very
will
neat.
just interject, sorry, to say that I think she says that at some point that it's like they always say that home is where the heart is, but like the found family aspect, I think, is really solid, and how that can be kind of a home instead of like a place or a, you know.
There's a renowned artist that is a songwriter who writes for this band called The Scraps, who once had a song where the lyric is, "Home's not a place, it's a feeling." And that's always resonated with me too, not because I know the
Oh.
guy, but it's like the people around you as well. It's
Yeah.
not where you hang your hat, which is what I think our parents' generation was. Home's just a place you hang your hat. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So, for one last time, the book was Mosquitoland by David Arnold. It was his debut novel. It's still very easy to find, so much so that I bought an extra copy because didn't think we had enough. So, if you want to read it, let us know. We'll send you one,
Yeah.
free of charge, or we'll just hand it to you if we see you in person. So, yeah, check it out. It was very easily accessible. And on that note, we move away from the book, but not quite done with our podcast yet. We have our segments. We're going to start with the usual place, which is current selection. Taja, what else have you been getting into?
So I finished Right Story, Wrong Story by Tyson Yunkaporta, that one about like indigenous wisdom. It was really interesting. It was kind of a little too deep at times. I found myself getting very distracted by his amazing voice and accent and just kind of lulling myself into a state of like kind of meditation where I like wasn't actually taking in the words that he was saying.
Hmm.
Um gosh, his voice is just like really good. Um but yeah, it was interesting, and I think that it's um an underappreciated way to take in the world.
Hmm.
And then I started reading Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the book two of Dunder Crawl Carl books by Matt Dinniman. I'm only on chapter like five, but it's spectacular. I love these books. The narration is
Yeah.
choice. I also just saw on TikTok before we started recording, the guy Jeff Hayes that narrates it. I think he's also narrated other things I've read, like the Expanse books. I
Mhm.
think he narrates those. Spectacular narrator. Not at all what I thought he looked like. So that was an interesting thing.
I've had that experience with radio hosts because I listen to a lot of
Oh,
sports talks radio, and then
yes.
you see them and you're like, okay, not
Yeah.
at all what I thought you were.
Yeah. No, but they're so much fun to listen to, and I'm really excited that there are so many more of the books. Also, I don't think I talked about this, but I did sort of meet Matt Dinniman at DragonCon. I handed him one of our ribbons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, did I not tell you about that?
No. Oh, when you and
Me and
Marcus went,
Marcus.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Or maybe you did, but I'd been drinking.
Um, I had also been drinking, which is why I handed Matt Dinniman a ribbon. Um, really cool dude though. Like I've seen some videos of his panels and stuff, and he just seems awesome. So
He seems lovely, and it's one of those I think where there was such a ground force because he was self-publishing, right? And
yeah,
there's such a groundswell for him that like
yeah.
now I think whatever by the time the actual physical books came out, like he had I think he
Oh,
started like Patreon, so
yeah.
he knows
He
the people
he's also
behind him have built
he's
it,
also like a one of
fans.
us kind of
Yeah.
guy. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's good.
As soon as we read it, my phone listened and I started having his reels pop up on my Instagram. But he does seem very lovely. And I like when authors just go and like autograph books randomly. I think that's really funny. And like he'll go and like rearrange his so like it makes more sense. He's like, why is the fifth book here? Like, no,
I
you
love
need book
that.
one, book two. Yeah, he seems really
I in stark contrast to that, I hate when I discover that an author that I really like, the books that they've written, is actually not a person that I align with on any other thing, and that's really disappointing. So, Matt, thanks for being awesome.
indeed. Um, for me, I finished Clariel by Garth Nix first, which that actually took me longer to read than I'd like to admit. It was
Because I
a little,
remember it being meh. Like I didn't even
yeah,
remember reading it.
it was a little tough at time. And honestly, like I said last episode, like there's so much I don't remember about that world with the charter
Yeah.
magic and everything and like where they were. It being a prequel that much later. And like he mentions at the end what that she's a character that comes back in Lyrial. And I was like, was that an important character? I don't even
I
remember
don't even
that.
remember her
Yeah,
being
she plays like it's like something the Masked or something. Like her
okay.
name's because she loses her name at the end. It's like Clara the Masked or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't remember it to save my life. So that was actually what made me hold on to Mosquitoland a lot tighter. Probably why I read it so quickly is because I definitely had been kind of floundering through
Hmm.
Clariel for a bit. Just didn't seem like much was happening. It was long. I mean, it was like 350, but still,
But it was long enough
it
to,
was
yeah.
long enough. And now after Mosquitoland, I picked up Before They Are Hanged, which is book two of the Blade itself. What is that? The
Oh,
first
yeah.
Law series that we just read. So I am 300 pages into that
Wow.
because I have not been sleeping. So a lot of early morning reading this week. It's been
Fun
great.
times.
Um, but yeah, so we're back with Glotka West. Um, we're getting both of them a little bit. Or Glotka a lot. West is kind of like a little bit, and then with our adventuring crew of Pharaoh, Jezel, and Logan, we're kind
Logan.
of getting their chapter from a different one. Everyone's like he kind of mixes it up there, so we're getting all their perspectives in
Interesting.
there. uh Carrying on the story, like Gluck has had a lot of intrigue and stuff going on with him. With the other three traveling, they're like dealing with just traveling. Like not as much
Not
excitement
super
there,
interesting.
at least not yet. And with West, he's dealing with the cruise, the war in England and kind of everything
Um,
that's going on there. So we haven't heard from Artie yet. She's obviously been mentioned by both West and Jezel, but she did not go to Dagostka with
Bummer. I kind of
yeah,
hope that had happened.
as I was hoping. So maybe she plays more of a role later on. I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see. But yeah, I was excited to. I like I said when we finished that, I just wanted to see where it goes, and a lot of
Yeah.
people do recommend that one, so we'll go there. And speaking of recommendation, this is a random one. So if you guys have some that you want to give us, feel free to send them in the chat or the Instagram or the text machine. So this is one that we got from our friend Angie that she got from podcast listener Ben Browder. And the book is Reamdy by Neil Stevenson. And this, based on what I looked up, is a techno thriller novel that deals with a wide range of online topics while family and friends try and plan a rescue mission for somebody who has been abducted. It kind of sounded like maybe some of these people were like acquaintances that they met through an MMORPG, like World of Warcraft or something like that.
Ooh,
They're coming together to find this person as they're being whisked across the globe and hidden. And yeah,
interesting.
it's over 1,000 pages long, so apparently it's got plenty of time to cover a lot of those topics. It
Gotcha.
was published in 2011 and was heralded as a perfect marriage between thrilling and nerdy. So a
It
lot of
sounds
interesting,
interesting.
lot of interesting things there. The page count is terrifying, but maybe it's like really big margins. Who knows?
Maybe.
I'll tell you, I will keep an eye out for it just to kind of see what it actually looks like
Yeah.
physically. Because yeah, sometimes those numbers can be deceiving. You never know. Uh,
Yeah.
but also, Ben was the one who recommended us
Dear
but Deer Hunting
Jesus.
with Jesus. I was going to say Letters for Jesus. Yeah, Deer Hunting with Jesus by Joe Badgett, who we covered many, many episodes ago, and that was a solid recommendation. So I assume this one is as well.
So I just checked what Reamd would be for hours on Audible. Do you want to take a guess?
Is this at normal speed or your sped up speed?
This is normal speed.
I'm going to say 25 hours and 12 minutes.
38 hours, 29 minutes.
So maybe it's not very big margins.
Perhaps not. It does have 4.4 stars and 10.8K reviews. So,
So maybe if you're not trying to do a podcast every other week, it's something you can get through,
yeah.
or if you pick it up and put it down, who knows? I mean, also, like with those thrillers, sometimes a couple hundred pages can go by in a blink.
Yeah, I was like,
It
maybe I'll listen to it.
might be something we pick up it just because of the size, unless, if we ever do another like month off or something like that, maybe
Right?
we could fit it in. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. And the more I looked into it, it sounded like something that'd be right up our alley. There's also
It
a sequel to
does.
it as well. I don't know how well that did, but yeah, something to check out. So that is Reamd, Reamde by Neil Stevenson. Check that out wherever you find books, I'm sure. And we thank Angie and Ben for that. So
Yeah.
our last piece of business is what is on the next episode. And this is one by an author that I have read. That I don't know. Tasha, have you read this author yet or listened to them? Because I read The Sword of Kaigen by them, which was just a standalone.
No, I have not read that. You gave me that, I think.
So the book is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. So interesting to get into this. This is one that Tasha found. The little blurb I'm going to steal from the back is the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever. So this also mentions that if you liked R.F. Wang's Babel, this would be right up your alley.
Which I did like that book.
Both of us did, and both of us read. So we will be getting into that on the next episode. Again, that was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. So
or maybe Wong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wang is Wong. It could be.
Probably be another one where we have to apologize for pronunciations and such. But that's on the next episode, which means we're done with this episode for. So thanks for coming along. If you watched on YouTube or listened in the traditional ways, we appreciate it. We can wave to you. But this has been the 103rd episode of the ABC Pod, the Adult Book Club with Tasha and Russell. Keep reading.